Hi, everybody. It is episode 549 of PodQuest.
Hey.
It is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. I am Chris. With me is Druten.
Hello.
And Walnut.
Yeah. Hi. How are you?
We're only 6 episodes from 555, which means we're only 107 episodes from 666.
Nice.
I did that math right?
Wait. And then we're like 103 episodes, or no, you said 107, so 110 episodes from 696. Nice.
Wait, hold on. Let's see.
We're 6 episodes from 555, so we'd be 107 from 666, right?
117. You gotta add 100.
Yeah, it would be a 10, not just a 1.
Yeah.
Or 120 from 669.
That's why I asked, because I knew I was probably wrong.
And then 130 from 696, or 150 from 696.
But really, what we need to get to is 616.
Yeah, I mean we're almost there. We're almost at the Prime universe.
We'll be there soon-ish, like a year.
That's the MCU's universe. The main universe of the MCU is 616.
Wait, did they designate the MCU as 616?
You haven't seen Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, have you?
I did. I just don't remember it because it was 4 years ago, and I only kind of cared.
Yeah, the Illuminati of the universe that they went to designated it 616. It has been designated as multiple different numbers throughout the course of the MCU, but it has been designated 616 by that Illuminati Council.
You know, that's weird.
His universe, yeah.
Well, so because 616 is the comic book Marvel, like that is the Marvel universe in comics. Just like 1610 is the original Ultimate Universe, and then the new one that we read for book club is a different number that I don't remember off the top of my head. I just looked it up. The original MCU number was apparently Earth 199999.
Yeah,
because like there have been events like Spider-Verse that included cinematic Spider-Mans and stuff like that. Like there was a Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield reference of their Spider-Man being in Spider-Verse.
Yeah. So the Deadpool, or the Fox universe, or specifically, I wouldn't say specifically Fox, I would say the X-Men universe, is Earth 10,005. I think they did mention that. The universe they go in Doctorverse, Multiverse of Madness with the Illuminati is 838. And I remember him calling it Earth 616. According to Screen Rant, I believe, like, even Mysterio called it 616, but that doesn't really count because he was from that Earth, so he has no idea what the fuck he was talking about. But I do remember Deadpool and Wolverine apparently cemented it at 616 as well. The main universe once more. Early scene in which Wade Wilson visits the universe, asks to join the Avengers, showing the official label of Earth 616 on screen before the hero returns to his homeworld. So, yeah. The MCU is officially 616, but you're right. At one point, it was known as 199,999.
Which, like, I don't know. I wish they would have kept it as the 199999 because now there's competing universes. They're going to overlap and collide, and one of them will have to be destroyed.
Well, I mean, the Ultimate Universe, the original Ultimate Universe, doesn't technically exist anymore.
616 is the mainline Marvel universe. 1610 is the original.
I thought 616 was old.
Nope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's also, like, you could argue that is the designation for that universe, and, like, everyone can designate it differently. It's like using... I don't know.
No, because in the comics, they refer to them all, like, they refer to each other's universes by the same numbers. It's like everybody in every universe came to the same consensus.
But that's like...
May have just been the Council of Reeds.
Yeah, and right now we don't have the Council of Reeds yet, so the Council of Reeds might... The Council of Reeds might turn and be like, oh, by the way, like, you're actually Earth 199,999. There's so many more Earths.
Yeah, I do like that that Marvel is just like, we're just going to give them kind of like random designations as far as numbers. DC's like, we're going to have 52. But then when we need it to be more, we're just going to make more.
Well, I mean, there was 52, and then there was Earth X, which was 53. So, yeah.
Then there's the minus worlds.
Yeah.
And then there was Crisis on Infinite Earths, where it collapsed everything to a single Earth. And then eventually the multiverse happened again.
So
Like
let's see.
DC has no fucking clue what they're doing. Like Marvel at least had like an event where they did destroy the multiverse. Like universes were overlapping with each other and colliding, and the final one was actually 616 and 1610. So mainline Marvel and Ultimate, and both universes ended up being like quote unquote destroyed in it. And then Doom used some Doom magic to make like his own universe that was kind of like the weird amalgamation of a bunch of other universes. And that was like the modern Secret Wars. But then they just wrote that all off by having the Fantastic Four and the guy who can make universes, whose name I don't remember, traveling the multiverse and like rebuilding it one universe at a time.
Mhm.
All because the dude got a hamburger from Miles Morales.
Yeah. So when Iron Man 2008, the original Iron Man came out, Marvel released an official guide to the Marvel Universe, which that book named Earth, the MCU's Earth 199,999, before the movies could claim otherwise. And then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse follows that and calls it, somehow references it to Earth 199,999.
Yeah, but anyway, we have more Marvel to talk about later.
Yeah.
What's on the agenda for this week?
So some Marvel talk. We all read some comics. I read them last night at like midnight. And then Cobb, you saw the Captain America Brave New World. I was able to finish Ghost of Tsushima after being sick all weekend, which is why I didn't get to see Captain America. And then Cobb, you played the Plucky Squire. Is that one where it's like the book and they're running around in the real world or whatever?
Yeah, it's like a storybook, and then the character like jumps off the page.
Yeah,
and becomes like a
that one-
3D model.
That one looked adorable.
It was, but I'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So
So we have a Spider-Man to talk about. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you guys hate Ultimate Spider-Man?
I didn't hate it at all. What I hated is that it was only six issues. I want like an actual ending, and that's the thing with comics, especially Marvel comics, is like you're not going to get a necessary ending where like everything where like major stuff is resolved, but it can continue to go. Like I could get an end of an arc, but I want there to be an ending to the story. Like I want everything to be resolved. I don't know how.
No, I know what you mean. And like there are situations where like when a major arc gets resolved, there is almost like a reset, and it's not always like a reset.
Yeah.
But like where like the status quo will kind of like level out and a new arc will start, and like that like in between period really is like a okay, you have a solid place to stop if you never want to continue.
Yeah, and like that's what I like. I want when it comes to books and things like that. Like the like especially when it comes to comic books, the main reason I don't get into them is because they can go on forever, and like I want to sit here and I want to know what happens in. Like, I like how these books, it was like, oh, the first couple of months of him learning his powers. We can get into the nitty-gritty of the story, but, like, at the end of those first couple of months, like, to me, I'm left unsatisfied because we only read the first 6 issues, and I'm like, I don't want to know what else happens. I want to know how they resolve everything that's going on, but I don't want to have to read 100 issues. Like, I would, like, and I'm sure, for the most part, like, honestly, my thought process is, I want to get through the 6-month mark. I want to get to the point where, like, Tony Stark comes back, kind of thing. I want to see.
Wait, did that
ends.
not happen?
No, the book ends with him getting the name Spider-Man.
Oh, that's right, because that was issue 6. Issue 7, Tony returns, because that is technically the next arc. Because January, it's January to because every issue is a month.
Yeah.
So and like sometimes like. I don't know if it bothered either of you, but like sometimes like it would end on a point where you're like, oh, I really want to know what happens immediately after this, and then the next issue picks up and it's the following month, like everything has been resolved from the end.
No, I actually really liked that format because there was not a lot of. It didn't feel like there was a lot of spoiler, or not really spoiler, but filler, because it was like, all right, this is the main thing that happened, and I knew that it was going to come back to anything that I would have questions on, and they did. Like they went right in Harry's issue. It brought us back to when Harry and Pete first met. and
Sure.
they went to a bar and they talked. Like, we got to see those interactions. I wasn't like reading it. I wasn't sitting here as immediately after Harry and Pete first met and been like, I want to know this interaction right after. It was nice to see like the next issue was them having dinner, and it was a month later, and it was like, okay, this is like, to me, I'll be 100% honest. Even though reading it, I was reading the month. It wasn't until just now when you were like, well, each issue was a whole month. I didn't even really think about like, oh, right, there was a whole month between Harry and Pete meeting and then them having dinner. Like, there was a whole month of relationship building that they had in there. That, and it didn't bother me that like that was missing. Like, it gave me a truncated, not really truncated story, but it gave me a full story. Like, I don't need the day to day.
No,
when it comes
exactly.
to something like this.
I just, from reading other comics, you have that like little time jumps like that are super common. It's like it was jarring at first, the first few times it happened, where it's like the issue kind of like ended on like a cliffhanger of sorts, and then the next issue is like, oh yeah, it's been like at least a couple of weeks. We're just rolling into it, and like maybe we'll fill in exactly what happened, or maybe we'll leave it up to like your imagination on like what probably transpired.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because I just read all of it again. So I might be actually like, I might be thinking of things that happened later. Because by issue 6, does MJ know?
MJ just finds out at the end or during issue 6.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because I thought it was before Tony showed up again.
Yeah. And MJ just finds out. The paper is barely just having been started. Like, it's all super. It's like he just becomes Spider-Man at that time. He fights Kingpin and gets his ass kicked. And that's it.
Right. Okay.
He got the with great power comes great responsibility talk from Harry, which is just like, oh, okay, Harry's gonna die.
Or Harry's gonna break bad.
Harry's gonna he's either gonna break bad or he's going to die, and the reason he's going to die is because Pete missed something or whatever, and then that's gonna give him his full sense of hero, because like he has that sense of hero, but he's gonna become fully that sense of hero because he needs that tragedy in his life.
Yeah. Drew, any thoughts from you?
No, I mean, no. Richie's summing it up pretty well. Kind of going back through it, I like the little bit where he's trying the different costumes, and it homages a bunch of different Spider-Mans throughout the years.
Oh yeah, and like it does a nice job of like doing some like classic ones, but also doing some like kind of obscure ones, because there was like a run in like the early 2010s where like every issue he had a different suit because he was working at like a lab and just had the funds and the resources to make all sorts of like zany suits. But yeah, like yeah.
My only real complaint is like I'm not incredibly fond of a lot of the art, primarily the faces, especially close-ups of the faces. I'm just not really all that into. I don't think they look. I don't think they look that great. And so like it was the dinner issue, which was issue 4. It was just like at times I was just like, all right, these looking at MJ, looking at Gwen, and it's all face-up close-ups of like single cells of their face. I'm just like, this is I don't know. This doesn't really work fully for me. But like everything else, like the action shots and things like that looked great. It was just their faces just didn't really work for me.
Yeah, which is fine. And like every artist is different enough that like sometimes they just don't work. I'm trying to double check the artist because it changed at a certain point. So bear with me for a second.
So issue 4.
Okay, so issue 4 was still David Messina.
David Messina.
So he like launched it, like he was the original artist. And then there were a handful of issues later on from like where you guys read. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was Marco Cicchetto is the one that launched it.
Marco Cicchetto. I'm even going through that, which is issue 6. The faces look better. Like
yeah, so I had them swapped. Who did it? I preferred Cicchetto's art for sure. The few issues that Messina did, like action and stuff like that, and like layouts and all were good. but like the specific character details, like you said, like faces and stuff like that, and even like hair and design just seemed oddly off to me.
I mean, like, I get that comics, they need people to they need multiple artists so that they can get out a monthly issue. I get it. But, like, it's sometimes, like, it's just, it felt a little drastic between, like, issue 3 and issue 4. And,
yeah, I mean,
and
sometimes it's just a matter of, like Chiketto may have either had another project that he had to do or was just behind. So, because I think some of these issues, the first issue was a longer one. And I think maybe one other one was longer. So they have like not that you guys read. I meant like in the first year.
Yeah.
Because Chiketto comes back and does them again. So yeah, it might just be like one of those like he had other stuff or like he didn't have the time in his schedule to do all of it. And unfortunately, very few artists have like the same style. Especially like Chiketto has like a kind of a unique style. And like anyone that you switch to is going to be like a drastic difference.
Yeah, and it wasn't until issue 4 that I noticed like I wasn't really digging the faces. So I think
that was
pretty
the first one that
obvious.
Messina did.
That was when Messina. That was Messina's first one. Chiketto did all of them with the exception of 4 and 5. I think he did 1, 2, 3, and 6.
And he definitely does like the later ones too.
Yeah.
He doesn't do all of the back half of the first year, but he definitely does more of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, because like the first 12 issues are like one a month. So like issue 12 is like a Christmas issue. But yeah, like I know I mentioned it when like I picked this, but it's cool seeing them redo the Ultimate Universe. Because this time they really are doing it as a totally new thing. The original Ultimate Universe was just like it was really just an updated, streamlined take on a lot of the stuff that you already know. Like Spider-Man got bit by a genetically modified spider as like a teenager. Like all of that still happened. Most of like the major storylines played out through the original Ultimate Spider-Man run. Like they changed stuff to be more like early 2000s, and like certain character arcs didn't happen the same way because other arcs worked better for them. And they didn't age Peter up as quickly because, like in the original Spider-Man, he's in high school at the beginning, and I think he's in college by issue like 20. So like they're kind of almost like the movie, like the Tobey Maguire movie. Like he gets bumped out of high school fairly quickly, and into college. Whereas in Ultimate Spider-Man, they kept him as like a teenager throughout the whole thing, and the whole original Ultimate Universe was very much like that. Like the books were way more interconnected than like a lot of stuff was at the time, and it kind of picked and chose the story arcs that worked the best until they kind of ran out of them and caught up to like modern comics. So like in 100 issues of X-Men, like you had like the Phoenix happen, you had Age of Apocalypse happen, and like 6 other like major storylines, and all of the like popular X-Men of that era were all kind of like in the beginning of the book instead of like showing up over like 4 or 5 decades like they really did. And this time, rather than just kind of retelling these stories, they really are doing something totally different, because they had the evil Reed Richards go and just stop all of these people from becoming heroes. And not like, for the most part, none of them were like I mean, it was all malicious because the dude's a megalomaniac, but like none of them were like harmful directly to the person. Like he literally stopped a spider from biting Peter and stuff like that. Like just kind of like slightly moved people out of the line of sight for like certain events to happen, and just set the world on a different course because of it. And so now you have because there's also an Ultimate X-Men and an Ultimate Black Panther and an Ultimates happening right now that all kind of launched. Spider-Man launched first, and I think Black Panther was second, X-Men was third, and then Ultimates launched, I think, like midway through the year, kind of after that 6-month window that Tony gives at the beginning. And I want to say like everyone kind of got a similar thing. I haven't read X-Men or Black Panther or any of those yet, though. But like just like this being such a different take on Peter, where he never knew Gwen. Like they didn't go to college together. Like he is out of the gate married to Mary Jane and has 2 kids. Like, he was never Spider-Man. Uncle Ben is alive because the whole situation that gets Uncle Ben killed never happens.
Yeah.
And like Aunt May is only dead from like the beginning of this universe, basically.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't die on page. It's literally just oh yeah, like the bad guys kind of did a thing, and it like a bunch of these like actually fairly important characters to different segments of Marvel were kind of just killed in the aftermath of it.
Yeah. And that's what I'm like, because it's still basically brand new. There's not really much on it. There's not really much I'm gonna learn if I look it up. And like that's what I want to know is like I want to know like how much did Tony Stark know before he like disappeared?
If you are like legitimately curious, I have just like the ones I shared with you guys, I have digital copies of Ultimate something or other. I forget what it was called. Hang on. Basically the it's a 4-issue miniseries that was the launch of this universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like a one shot that kind of like ties it directly into these books before they launched.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my Ultimate Invasion? It was 4 issues. Those came out in 2023, and it was like the first issue is like the evil Reed Richards in like the main Marvel universe, because that's where he's been like held prisoner for an extended period, breaking free and like finding a new universe to go to, and like going to that universe, and then his kind of like a little bit of what he was doing to kind of give you an idea of it, and then just that universe in its current form, where you kind of find out like Tony's like a teenager, early 20 something. Like, he's very young in that, if you couldn't tell from like when he popped up. His dad was still alive. His dad and Stain, like from like the movie, were like partners still, and like actually like friends and working together when it started, and like good guys. Howard Stark was Iron Man, and Stain was War Machine.
Okay.
And then like you have like the Hulk exists, but he's a very different Hulk, and he's kind of a bad guy. Same thing with like Colossus is kind of in it, and a bad guy.
Yeah,
so
like
I'm
interested in seeing more of how much this world is different.
I'll share those 5 issues with you.
It is a new kind of story, which is just nice to see. And I know I'll never get it unless they make an animated version of it. Which, make an animated version of this. Give me that. Give me an animated version of this new Ultimate Universe. I'll watch the hell out of that.
Unfortunately, it'll never sell because everyone's an adult.
I mean,
when they make stuff now, it's all on Disney Plus, and they gear it towards the kids.
I mean, they could still do it. They could premiere one of them. Like, what if? What if?
What if would be cool.
What if episode of? What if we made the new Ultimate Universe as an animated show? Just don't even name it like what if this happened. Just be like, what if we did what we're doing in the comics, but in a show? What do you think would happen? How would you feel about this? And then they show us the show, and then maybe we can actually like. For those of us who are more interested in watching than reading, not saying reading's stupid, it's just I'm more interested in watching. Like, let us watch this. Let's watch what's going on.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. But yeah, like it compared to trying to read like mainstream Marvel or DC or like any of like the books, like even like looking at Image, like Spawn, like things that have been going on for decades at this point and have like just so much history, like it can be a lot to try and get into. Even when you do know where to start, like every book has like multiple good jumping on points that don't require you to go like grab the previous 10 years of books, but you're always going to have that feeling like, I don't know who this character is, and they just kind of like show up, and then you do feel a little left out. Whereas with something like this Ultimate launch, like if you know who the characters are, it kind of hits a little different because you're like, oh, like they were such and such in the original like universe. But in this one, it's more just like, okay, well, like, what is this character going to do? Like, who are they? Why are they being focused on? Are they unique to this? Are they something totally different? So yeah, I like it. I also really liked the original Ultimate Universe until it got like a little out of control with what it was doing. After they kind of the original one around 2010 had this event called Ultimatum, where it more or less killed everybody. Like they killed Wolverine and Cyclops. Magneto like destroyed the eastern seaboard, if I remember correctly, or tried to. Like he tried to flood it. Most of the Ultimates were killed, like Ant-Man and the Wasp. The Wasp literally got eaten by the Blob, and then Ant-Man did Giant Man and ate the Blob.
Jesus.
Yeah. Ultimate is also Ultimate. The original Ultimates is also the one where you get like So there's the infamous like 60s issue of like Avengers or whichever Ant-Man comic it was, where Hank hits Janet, and that whole thing like kind of like leads them to like a very rocky relationship for decades. And that particular thing was apparently like a misinterpretation by the artist. Like, and back then they just didn't have the communication channels to like quickly realize that was a mistake and get it redrawn for the book. So they just kind of had to roll with it. So when they did Ultimate, like they leaned into it. Like Hank and Janet get into a fight, and he literally like she shrinks down to like the Wasp thing, and he like hits her with a fly swatter and then sprays her with bug spray.
Yeah.
Like he goes full on like, I'm going to kill you. And then Captain America shows up and beats him like into like just like a bloody pulp.
Yeah.
And it's also the book where you get like the creepy, like incestuous Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver and Captain America yelling at people. Do you think this A stands for France?
Mm-hmm.
Like all the really edgy, stupid early 2000s shit. Whereas this one this one's not wholesome, but it just feels a little more like realized, I guess. Like they're not trying to be like something it's not.
Yeah.
So, anything else you guys want to say about it?
No,
not specifically about the Spider-Man, but there is actually an interesting thing in the issue 6.
Okay.
The Marvel, the little like in memoriam for, is it Verige, the artist? The Philadelphia Wings actually used that Captain America art on their Marvel jersey this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I just opened it up.
'Cause he was a Native American, so the Wings did a combo like Native American Marvel jersey and used that Captain America art on the sleeves of the jerseys.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, they were cool looking jerseys. I tried to get one, but they went for too much money.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
In that case, then we have to pick a new thing. I don't know that any of us have a theme though.
Nope.
Not really.
Well, what if we make it simple then? And Rich is gonna put you on the spot because I think it's your turn. Why don't we just like pick a decade and we'll pick something from that decade?
Decade. I mean, sure. We could look at that.
Well, Rich, since it's gonna be your pick, what decade would you like to go with?
Man, don't ask me. I don't know, man, because I'm gonna pick like either 90s or 2000s. Like I'm not gonna go beyond. I'm not gonna go prior to 90s. You know,
that's fine. That's fine. So 90s or 2000s. I'm gonna flip a coin. 2000s.
2000s.
Yeah. I realized I did not tell you what I was doing. Heads was 2000s, tails was 90s, and it was heads.
Okay, let's see. So just any movie from the 2000s.
Any movie from the 2000s, or anything from the 2000s at this point.
Yeah, anything. I mean, that movie. It would be, I see. That's even harder because now I gotta look at 2000s movies.
You're welcome.
From oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, is that available somewhere? No, we'd have to. Don't I own it? Do I own it?
What? I'll look.
District 9.
It's been a minute since I watched that.
This is a great movie.
Oh, I hated that movie. Did you guys like it?
What? Oh man, that's a great movie.
I will happily watch it again. Like I haven't watched it in 15 years, 16 years. I hated it at the time.
Streaming anywhere.
No, it's not streaming anywhere.
I don't own a copy of it.
It's $4. Oh no, I don't want to rent it. I almost clicked rent when I. It's $3.80 to rent it on Amazon.
Oh man, the 2000s had a bunch of good movies. Children of Men.
I've never seen that one.
I've not seen that either.
It's also another one of the it's not available
On Stars.
Is it? You know what? Since Cobb, you already said you don't like District 9. and you got neither of you have seen Children of Men. I just want to double check and make sure this is what I'm thinking about. Yeah, let's do that. Especially since it is available somewhere.
Yeah, it looks like it stars with Apple TV, so you just do a free trial, and
I'm just gonna fucking rent it. I don't care.
no, I'm just saying, like, if you don't want to pay for it, free trial to Apple TV. It's weird that it stars like part of Apple TV now.
Well, it's probably who knows? Who knows?
It's weird because Just Watch has it listed like you can rent the movie on Apple TV, or it's part of Stars on Apple TV.
I mean, I just looked up Stars, and they have their own website on a monthly plan. Apparently, if you sign up for 3 months, you can get it for $2.99 a month.
Oh, fancy!
It's normally $10.99 a month.
But yeah, if you just, I would say just to be safe, because it might be like a Stars but through Apple deal for it. If you go to Just Watch and search the movie, you click on the Stars thing, and it brings you right to get a free trial. So,
yeah,
it's easy enough. And honestly, like I've actually wanted to grab Apple TV again anyway, because the new season of Severance and that show with Jason Segel, Shrinking, I think it's called. Yeah, Shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. So in 2 weeks we'll watch Children of Men. Cool. All right. What is next on the agenda? Where did the agenda go?
More Marvel, because Cobb, you went and saw a Marvel movie.
I did.
I just closed a thing I didn't want to close. Was
it Audacity?
No.
Okay, then we're good. Yeah, so I went and I saw Captain America: Brave New World on Monday. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
I think
they did. Yeah,
go ahead.
They did a very good job with it. It was a little. It leaned a little too much into trying to, I think, be like a sequel to Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Not in like the content of the movie, but just in like the themes of the movie.
The level of politics and things like that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like it's very much like a political thriller.
Yeah.
That's not like a shot against it necessarily. It's just like you can tell that this was influenced more by Winter Soldier than anything else.
Yeah.
Like Harrison Ford was great as Ross. And like the way that they kind of did Ross in it, where with like him being the president and everything, and kind of the lead up to like the Red Hulk stuff, worked really well, and different from the comics, which I liked, because it's cool when they kind of like subvert the expectations for that. And Anthony Mackie is just a lot of fun. Like I like him.
Yeah,
like,
he's a great actor, a great performer. I'm happy to see him in a lead role. The best thing that you see online is apparently he brought Tom Holland as his date for the premiere, because there was an interview that they had where like Tom Holland mocked him for not starring in a movie and not having a movie named after him, and so now he's like, oh well. Yeah, like somebody was like, "Who you bring? Are you? Is Tom Holland gonna be at the premiere?" And he turned and was like, "He's my date. Like this is my movie now, so I get to shove it in his face that I'm Captain America. I'm bringing him. He's sitting next to me. Zendaya can show up with whoever she wants to." Yeah,
no, that's fun. And the movie had some good cameos and like references. Like it is so like while I said this movie is obviously like taking inspiration from Winter Soldier. It is really probably like it is the closest thing to an Incredible Hulk sequel that we'll probably ever see. Because like this is the same Ross. This is General Ross from Civil War and from the Hulk, and there are a lot of references to like the Hulk and Abomination and like the stuff that happened in New York, and they actually even say 16 years ago. So like because with Ross being the president, like. He has that history of like the Hulk hunter basically, and like wasting both people's lives and millions of dollars on trying to like stop the Hulk, who then just goes on to become like a famous superhero.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like yeah, like it was very weird to be there and be like, oh, I didn't expect it to reference it as much as it did. And then all the stuff like we were talking about before we really started recording with like the Celestial being a thing, like
they not, after 3.5 years, they finally acknowledge The Celestial. Yeah,
Yeah,
Eternals is only 2021.
yeah, I was gonna say it was like November 2021.
Yeah.
So like still almost 4 years ago, and
Yeah.
there have been plenty of movies since then that.
So this is what I wanted to say before we started. There have been plenty of movies for sure, but Spider-Man is not going to deal with the fucking Celestial. It's not going to deal with it. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, most of the movie wasn't even on this universe. Thor: Love and Thunder, most of the movie wasn't even on this planet. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, most of that movie sucked. So who cares? Ant-Man and Wasp and Quantumania, none of it was on this planet. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, 99% of the movie was not on this planet. The Marvels, okay, maybe you have it commented at some point because it deals a lot with Earth. Sam Jackson's in it. Its Sword is part of it. Like, maybe you mention it there. And then Deadpool and Wolverine, we already went over. That is a completely different universe as well. So, like, as I agree, there have been, what was that? 9 movies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 movies since
And
the
a handful
Eternals.
of series.
And a handful of series. None of them really were on the planet enough, with the exception of the Marvels. And on top of that, as we had even already mentioned, a lot of this movie is like sort of a political thriller combined with a superhero movie. None of them are political. So why would they worry about the fucking Celestial?
So it's not so much that I expect that like I don't think Spider-Man should have been out there swinging from the fingers in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It was more like it was just it's surprising that it took them 3 years to like reference it at all. Because like if you look back on like older stuff, they referenced things like in just little Easter eggs. Like even in the first season of Daredevil, before they kind of like separated that stuff after a little while, there's like a bunch of references to the Battle of New York.
Yeah, but
years after it happened.
All of those movies were only a few years after, or not movies, shows. All of those Netflix shows were only like a year or two after the Battle for New York. And they all took place in New York. So it made sense that like they referenced that a few times. And like they were all smaller scale, but
yeah,
like,
all I'm saying is like a news thing like in the background showing like a picture of like the Celestial. Like that's all I'm talking about is like I'm surprised there were no like that movie flopped and then there was no reference to it ever until this movie.
I don't. Yeah, maybe we should have seen like a newspaper and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness fly by, but you're what is the term? Picking, I don't know, you're pulling hairs, or whatever. Like the amount of work that they have to do in these movies to also just worry about, hey, let's have a newspaper article flying across New York City while Doctor Strange is cutting a freaking bus in half with a magical buzzsaw, and have the newspaper article reference the Celestial. Like,
but they used to do that stuff all the time.
They used to do that stuff when the MCU wasn't as big as it is.
I mean, they were releasing more movies than they are right now.
That's because of I mean, I'm making excuses. At one point or another, it just turns into me making excuses. But, like,
and look,
they weren't...
Look, you can't deny the Eternals flopped. It did not do well. And, like, they're never going to use those characters again.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to say that... Like, I didn't think that movie was terrible.
No, it wasn't. It shouldn't have been a movie. Like, we talked about that when it came out. It should have been a series.
I should have, after I watched it, I agree. Like, it should have been, like, a series or something. It didn't do good as a movie. I agree. And why...
It's kind of like the Inhumans. Like, remember how, like, the Inhumans kind of flopped? And then, they had all those plans for the Inhumans and they just vanished?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that.
Yeah, they had the Inhuman show, and then that flopped, and so all we had were Inhumans in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And even then, they pushed away from calling them Inhumans after the Inhumans show flopped.
I mean, they still called them Inhumans, but they stepped away from the Inhumans after the 2 seasons that they focused on the Inhumans.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
They just stopped focusing on it because they weren't the threat anymore. There was a new threat.
But you know,
I think it was even after the one season.
But yeah, like they were supposed to be like they were supposed to be the X-Men for Marvel because Marvel didn't have the rights to the X-Men.
Yeah.
And even Miss Marvel, who is at the time, like when that show came out, she was the most prominent Inhuman ever, really.
But I'm pretty
they're just
sure
like, no, she's a mutant now.
Like, I'm pretty sure Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, they called Black Bolt an Inhuman.
They did, but that was also just like a little Easter egg on a different universe.
Yeah, it was on a different universe who was barely taking part of a main fight at the midpoint of the movie. But like,
the only point I was trying to make is Marvel, when stuff doesn't go well, understandably kind of like writes it off because why are they going to waste like time and effort on it? So the fact that like almost 3 and a few months later, a movie is suddenly like a major plot point is this thing from this movie that like no one saw is just, it's funny to me. And I'm surprised that like, because they know a lot of this stuff way in advance of them making it. I'm just surprised they didn't have like just like little like Easter eggy sort of things like referencing the Celestial in the middle of the ocean. Not like to focus on it or be like plot points, but just like as part of their like connective tissue that they do with so many other things.
Yeah, I think maybe they also feel stuff like that may be a little unnecessary at this point. Before it was a big deal that it was a connected universe because it was the first time it was done, first time they were trying it, and now that this has been going on for 10 years, they don't need to push that as much.
Except for the TV shows where it gets weird, like with the fucking She-Hulk.
I mean, what do you mean? Like
She-Hulk, I liked She-Hulk. This is not like a complaint against She-Hulk. I actually had a ton of fun watching that. But that was one of those shows where it's like, no, we are going to make sure you know that every single thing that's ever happened is connected to this show somehow. I thought it was hilarious.
That was part of like trying to embrace She-Hulk and the meta commentary that whole show was about in general, as well as just She-Hulk and what she's about in the comics. That's
why I said that was not like a complaint against She-Hulk.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but like I think at this point they don't really need to focus on the interconnecting webs, especially since like a lot of their like some of their bigger movies, Spider-Man: No Way Home was a crossover movie with another hero that has only had one other movie prior to that, and then now has his second immediately after.
Oh, that's right. Multiverse came out like shortly after No Way Home, didn't it?
Yeah, it was December to May. So, it was very quick after. And then like Thor, I don't know. I feel like maybe they're just not. They don't feel the need to push those threads because those threads have always been known to already be there.
Maybe. Like I said, it was just a thing. I think it's weird regardless.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I would sit here and argue is like I said, like you even though we know that these movies are coming out time after time, you don't know the actual timeline. We don't know what the timeline was to Eternals and Spider-Man: No Way Home and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Like we don't know actually where they're lying. They don't give us dates in these movies. So Eternals could have happened after Spider-Man and Doctor Strange.
It could. I will say most of the Marvel movies happen in at least the year that they release in. Other than like a few notable exceptions, like at this point, especially like after like the blip and everything.
I mean, I would say that everything is 5 years later at this point, and time is loosey goosey.
Yeah, I guess I actually meant that the other way around. Like Iron Man through Endgame, everything was like generally
it was that year.
War.
Yeah, and then Endgame, there was the 5-year time jump, which put everything to 2024 ish era. So like Endgame happened a year ago, almost a year ago in real life time. Like the events of Endgame and the end of the blip happened almost a year ago. So like at this point, we could, because Eternals directly does reference the blip, we know that takes place a few weeks after, or at some point after Endgame. We just don't know exactly when after Endgame.
I think every movie has referenced it at this point, hasn't it?
I mean,
in some way, like
Shang-Chi didn't really mention it at all.
But I think there's things that happen in Shang-Chi that like
yeah, and
just
obviously
point
Black
to it
Widow
being there.
didn't. I don't think like maybe there was some sort of reference in some way, shape, or
Yeah,
form.
I only saw it the one
But like,
time, and it was 4 years ago, so I don't
no,
actually remember.
I don't think Shang-Chi had any reference to the blip. I'm saying in general with all the movies. Doctor Strange, I think I recall seeing, yeah, because they defeated Thanos.
You mean in Multiverse of Madness?
In Doctor Strange and Multiverse Madness, they defeated Thanos. The universe that they go to, Doctor Strange used the Darkhold to defeat Thanos, and then that's when they had Black Bolt kill Doctor Strange.
Well, you're also
Like
also if you figure like Multiverse of Madness is happening after WandaVision, which is after Endgame.
yeah, but you're saying like what I'm taking of what you're saying is has every movie referenced the blip since the blip?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean like literally like talk about it. I meant like I feel like there is something in every movie to at least like that you can like link it to being after for the most part because like
I mean, yeah, obviously
they're looking for Gamora from when she like runs away. Ant-Man, like Cassie is a teenager or an adult or whatever she's supposed to be. Spider-Man, obviously like that one's obvious.
Obviously we know they're all after the blip. It was Eternals was the only one that was directly affected by the blip because the Celestial couldn't grow because the population cut in half. And then when
that's right. I forgot that was like a thing.
Yeah, when the population bounced back, that's when the Celestial started to grow again, and that's why it was coming out when it did. So that's where like I make that like minor counter argument of like we don't know the actual effective timeline of when the blip happened to when Eternals happened and things like that because they like these movies could all be 5 years post when they were released. So Eternals could have been 2026, and Shang-Chi would have also been 2026. Black Widow doesn't count. Like Spider-Man,
There's
No
probably
Way
actually
Home.
official dates for everything. That like we could actually probably like find it because Marvel releases that stuff pretty regularly. So there probably is like an official like we can see exactly what month each of these movies was supposed to happen in if we cared enough. I personally don't. But to like loop back to Captain America, Anthony Mackie was awesome. The guy that is I don't remember the actor's name. He's the new Falcon. He was in Winter Soldier and Falcon. He was a lot of fun because like he's a little cocky, and like talkative. So he kind of adds that like that to it. I don't know the word I'm looking for. And they have some good like pulls from like some other stuff, both like actual characters and then just references to things. Like there's references to like the Red Room, like Black Widow stuff. And like there's characters from other than Falcon from Falcon and Winter Soldier that like pop up like here and there, and like references to like characters that like have showed up in other things even if they're not shown directly. And like some of the action because like we haven't had a lot of like Falcon or Sam like as Captain America like combat stuff like on their own because a lot of the movies he's been in have been team up movies in one way or another. So this one you have Captain America and you have Falcon, and like obviously like Sam is better at it than Juan, that's his name, Juan Torres, than the kid that's Falcon now. But like they both kind of like have like the similar fighting style because they do like the wingsuit fighting. And now Sam has like the vibranium wings and stuff that like he can use to fight. And like some of the like the aerial combat and things they do in it is just really fucking cool looking. And there's a few times where like he is in a situation where like he has to just straight up like fight people, and like it lets them show off that like he is like actually legitimately like he can fight too. Like he wasn't the mistake giving him the shield the way that like he both felt that way in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and there is references to it in this movie too, where like not so much that like he thinks he is like was the wrong pick and like it was a mistake, though that does come up at one point, but just like that he isn't equipped to do it because he doesn't have like the super soldier serum that Steve had or that Bucky had or that Isaiah, the black Captain America from the Korean War that was introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like they all have a super soldier serum. Like, they're durable and strong and like can do shit that normal people can't. And he's just a guy with a shield and some wings.
Hmm.
And like he he fought a fighter jet at one point in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
not to mention like Hulks and other like superhero-y shit.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, just they did a really good job with it. Like, I was impressed with like how good this movie ended up being.
Hmm.
And it wasn't too long. It was like
Yeah.
right about 2 hours. There's definitely some stuff they could have trimmed out of it. Like, it's political thriller stuff. Like, it's hit or miss. Sometimes that stuff, like when they do it, they nail it and it's great. And most of this they nailed pretty good. But there were a few scenes that just drug a little bit longer. You're like, you guys probably could have just brought that back a little bit, and it would have worked better, and the movie would have been, maybe 10, 15 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
But overall, like, definitely worth checking it out. The cast was great. They introduced some cool characters that I hope pop up again later. And I'm curious to see what happens, like, if they use Harrison Ford anymore as Ross. Because like he could be a very prominent character, especially like we know that there's 2 Avengers movies coming in the next 2 years. Because I think it's next year and the following year are whatever they're called now, Doomsday and Secret Wars or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And like, why wouldn't you have another Hulk on the team, assuming like that Hulk can be like used, right?
Yeah. I mean, he would be, if anything, part of Thunderbolts. But
No,
we got
Red Hulk has been part of the Avengers.
I guess. I don't know. I don't really know. But yeah, we got Thunderbolts in May. We got Fantastic Four in July. Then Doomsday in May of next year, and Secret Wars in May of the following year.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, Fantastic Four. They showed a trailer for it. I don't think the movie's going to be good. Like, I don't have high hopes for it. And not because they didn't try, and not because they don't have a good cast. It's just Fantastic Four are weird, and they're in my opinion they're more hit than miss a lot of times.
They're going very niche into it. They're going very slice of life,
And it's supposed to be like in the 60s.
day-to-day kind of thing. Well, it's an alternate universe 60s too. It's not even like our 60s. It's an alternate 60s, which eventually, but it does seem like in the trailer it will come to 616 modern day. But yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm hopeful, but it's going to be one of those like it's probably going to sit on a level similar to maybe a Multiverse of Madness, an Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania, and I'm trying to think of like other like sort of kind of niche type movies, but like none of them are really sticking out to me. Like, it's not going, maybe even probably on the level of Shang-Chi as well, where all of those, in my opinion, were good movies, but were not necessarily received very well, but were still received well enough, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I that's what I'm thinking we're gonna get with Fantastic Four. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Like,
I mean, and realistically, people just aren't going to see these movies as much anymore.
yeah,
Like going to the movies is expensive. No one really wants to do it. And like the movies just don't have as much appeal to audiences. Like, people aren't going out in mass to see like the Thursday night showings anymore. Like, you still have those theaters full, but like 10 years ago, it was 4 theaters full on like a preview night. Now it's like maybe 1, and it's not even the biggest one in the theater. Like I think I saw Captain America was the top grossing movie this weekend, and it didn't even break 100 million. Whereas
88 million opening.
Yeah, where if you go back like pre-COVID and stuff, like these movies were making like over 100 million in its opening weekend, especially a holiday opening weekend.
Ant-Man and the Wasp opening was 106 million.
Yeah. And I feel like that one is
but
one of the smaller ones.
That was Quantumania as well. It was 106
million. That was the third one.
Yeah, that was the third one.
But
like
wow.
Iron Man 2 opening weekend was 128 million.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it's not necessarily not doing pre-COVID numbers, because it still did better than Thor: The Dark World. It also did just it did slightly better than Thor: The Dark World at only 3 million more. And it did 17 million more than the Eternals. and fucking 42 million more than the Marvels, which the Marvels is a great fucking movie. But again, that's like we're looking at like comparing either like pre-COVID, post-COVID. Like pre-COVID, the worst movie of Marvel, The Dark World, 85 million. Post-COVID, well, it's also people don't like female leads. Led Marvel movie only made 46 million. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, look, the movies just like they do not have the mass appeal that they had 10 years ago. And like
Yeah,
I think them doing less a year helps, but then like this year there's 3 of them again.
yeah.
Right?
I
Yeah,
mean,
there's 3 this year.
there's 3 this year, and they stack them at the beginning of the year, or the first half of the year. There's nothing at the end of the year, which I think that's more the problem. I don't mind the fact that there's 3 this year. I mind the fact that it's February, May, and July.
Yeah. Well,
Why
it's
not
because May and July is the big time for movies.
It's the box office days, yeah.
And end of year doesn't really get them anything.
Yeah.
Because once you get into the holiday season, like movies just don't make as much usually, which is part of why Marvels didn't do as well because it came out in November.
Yeah.
Like if it came out in July, it probably would have done better. It wouldn't have been like breaking records, but better.
Yeah. And we're also looking at first Avenger was 65 million, Winter Soldier was 95 million, Civil War was 179 million all opening weekends. So like it varies. And it's like the very first Captain America movie didn't make as much as this new Captain America movie, which is technically the first new Captain America, the first of the new Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Like it is a first, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like your thoughts on movies aren't what they were 2 years ago. I think more people are flocking back to the movies. More people are feeling more comfortable to go to the movies. People aren't necessarily going to want to spend all that money at the movies, so they're probably not getting snacks and concessions and this and that and the other thing. But people are still going to the movies.
Oh, people are going to the movies. They're not going like they did previously. Like,
Yeah,
and it has nothing to do with like people being worried about COVID. It's just it's very expensive to go to the movies, and people are now learning if you wait a month, you can just watch it at home for less money. Like, assuming you're watching it with more than like one person. Like, if you're watching it and it's just you watching it, the price is pretty negligible. Like, if you go to like a matinee showing, like you're not spending any more money. But like, if you have a whole family, like, and it's $15 a person to go to the movies, but you can rent it for 20, like, you're saving a ton of money by just watching it at home and also being able to pause it when like people need to use the bathroom.
Yeah, but and again, this is like, I feel like because a lot of the fandom that they're reaching towards is still trying to pick up the fandom that has been watching this, but also trying to get kids that like there definitely was a lull both post Endgame and COVID. The movies weren't the writing wasn't as good, the movies weren't as good or well received. In my opinion, most of the movies that people had problems with weren't bad. It was just people were being, I don't know, like over. It was the vocal minority, seemingly.
Yeah,
it was also just like fatigue on the Marvel style of movie.
I guess I don't know. Like I remember hearing people shitting on Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. Oh, the CG looks terrible in this movie. Look at how shitty it is. I'm like, no, this is one of like the prettiest movies I've ever seen in a long time. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, look at MODOK. Oh, that's funny. Like, that's ridiculous, and faces are hard. But like, that was supposed to be comedic. What was MODOK? Was supposed to be silly. It was off-putting, yes, but that's what it was supposed to be. But like the whole, if you're gonna look at MODOK, and then you're gonna look at the whole rest of Ant-Man, and you're gonna say that this movie's CG was terrible and was the worst thing you ever seen, then grow up.
Yeah, I mean, like, really, at that point, it's really just a complaint because the whole movie is CG.
And then it's you got Marvels, which to me was a fantastic movie that like we just like opening box office numbers 44 million. Like that's just because it was a female lead and you have the neckbeards out there. Like it was a shock. I was shocked that they made a sequel to Captain Marvel because didn't the first one not even do that well because it's a female lead?
No, I think the first one actually made a decent, but that was also that was like a pre Infinity War.
It was pre Endgame.
That movie made $1.1 billion.
Jeez. But what
And
was
its
its
opening
opening?
weekend was 153 million in the US.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So
Like
that was peak Marvel.
exactly, and like
Right.
post Endgame, like people still enjoy the movies. It's just they're not flocking to the theaters to see them, and they're not seeing them like 3 or 4 times opening weekend the way people were for a long time there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
And
there's still interest. It's just not what it
yeah.
was.
And it is because it's been going on for 10 years. Like I went and saw Avengers 3 times opening weekend. I saw it at the midnight screening. I saw it on literally that day, that Friday. I saw it with a friend, with somebody else who didn't see it at opening, like at midnight. And then like that Sunday, I saw it again with another friend. And then I saw it like weeks later with another group of friends who still hadn't seen it. So I saw it like 3 or 4 times in theaters. And like now it's been 10 years. And I'm older.
Dude, it's
I
been
don't have
13 years.
I'm just 10 years. It's been 10 years. It's fine. You
It's
know what
been
I'm saying?
13. It's been 13 years. You're even older than you think.
But like I'm not spending $100 to see a movie 3 times in the weekend. You're right. I agree. But it is also like those viewers have kids now. A lot of them have kids that are going to see it, and they're spending the $100 of going to see the movie by bringing their kids. Most of them, not all of them. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't.
look,
I think like Marvel is, to me. I don't think the movies were as bad as people were making them out to be. I agree that there was a lull. I agree that like some of the movies weren't capturing my interest. I've more than I can honestly say I've more so lost interest in the TV shows mostly outside of What If than anything else. I haven't watched Echo. I haven't watched Agatha. Honestly, after the end of Loki, I just gave up. I thought the ending of Loki season 2 was stupid.
which is fair.
And so, but besides, like the movies, I've always thought were great. I've always thought were solid. With the exception of fucking, I thought Black Widow wasn't bad, but I was bored with it. And again, Black Panther 2 sucked.
Yeah, I didn't like Black Panther 2. I still haven't seen Guardians 3 or the Marvels.
Guardians 3 was incredibly fun.
Just
Marvels was amazing. Like
I'm actually more interested in watching Marvels than I am watching Guardians. Like I grew to the point where like I genuinely do not like watching those characters anymore.
yeah, and that's the thing. Guardians is done. Like the Guardians are done. Like when it comes to the Guardians of the Galaxy, at the end of the movie, it says Star-Lord will return, and
Yeah.
that's it.
And
The
that's one of those
Guardians, the
like
Guardians are done.
yeah, and like Star-Lord is one of the ones where like I want to watch least. Like
Yeah,
by Infinity
He's-
War, I was just over those characters.
he's definitely not getting his own. He's definitely not getting his own movie. He's gonna be in the team ups for sure. He's gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
in the Avengers. He's not getting his. It's not gonna be a Star-Lord movie. People hate Chris Pratt enough to where Marvel's smart enough to know not to make a Chris Pratt centric movie.
Yeah, and I don't hate Chris Pratt. I just like those characters were great in the first movie. The second one is fine. But like the Avengers stuff, like they wore out their welcome by the time of the Avengers movies.
I'll be honest. I think the hate on Chris Pratt is too much. Like I see what people say about their hate towards him. I don't agree with it. I think they're white knighting or maybe virtue signaling more so than anything else. I don't know if either of those are 100% the right term, but like I've seen what people complain about Chris Pratt, and I'm just like, you're trying too hard to hate this guy. And
I mean, that's the internet though too.
yeah, well, I mean, one of them is his one of his kids with Anna Faris is autistic, I believe. Or it was born disabled and unhealthy. And then his child with Schwarzenegger was when they were born, he had tweeted out, "Thank you to my wonderful partner for giving birth to our healthy child." Or healthy and or well and healthy child or something like that. And people blew up on him. Oh, this is a dig on Anna and your child who's disabled and blah blah blah. I'm like, no, he's just saying thank you to his fucking partner for giving birth.
Again, that's the internet. It's literally why I don't go on social media.
Yeah,
Because I don't care enough to watch what people say because everyone's a fucking critic and everyone's a piece of shit.
Yeah. So like I feel like because like I've heard this in other mediums where people be like, yeah, I'm just not even gonna mention Chris Pratt's name because he's just that bad of a person. Like, is he though? Well, he goes to a church that doesn't like gay people. I'm like, what has he ever said about gay people that makes you think he won't? Like, he just goes to that. Yeah, I can understand like the association isn't great, but he's never actually said anything negative toward the LGBT community or anything in that nature. And like, does he still go to that church? Which I've not looked into it. I don't know if he still does. But like for me, until he straight up says something negative about something, it's just like, all right, he goes to a church that has once said something bad, but have they redeemed themselves, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like he's going to fucking Westboro Baptist Church or whatever bullshit that.
Yeah. But we've been going on about Marvel stuff long enough.
Yeah.
Rich, you finished Ghost of Tsushima.
I did. I finished Ghost of Tsushima. Which that game is really, really long. It was really good, very emotional. I'm not really too happy with the ending because, like, I mean, you kind of should have figured that the ending was going to be the way it was. But I really thought like the whole final chapter was kind of a little iffy. So like the whole game, the Island of Tsushima, which apparently this whole battle, like battle for the Tsushima Island and everything, is like it is an actual island near off Japan. And like the Mongol invasion into Japan, they invaded Tsushima Island, and the battle for Tsushima Island against the Mongols that happens at the beginning of the game is an actual historic battle that happens. From that point on, everything becomes historic fiction because this is all it's all its own story, and how the game ends is definitely not how the war ended. And so you're trying to fight off the Mongol invasion, and you start off as a samurai who has honor, and then you just like kind of drop your honor to do what needs to get done to fight a war against brutes, people who have no honor and don't care and will do whatever it takes to win their war. It's the Mongolians. They're just out to take over as much land as possible. They don't have any stake on this land. They shouldn't be there. Like they're terrible people. And so like the whole first two chapters of the movie or of the game are you trying to free Tsushima Island with your uncle and save the people of the island, where at the end of chapter 2 you turn around and be like, well, my uncle, the way he's planning on doing this, we can see is going to kill hundreds of thousands of people, of soldiers of ours. I can go poison them. And uncle's like, well, that's dishonorable, so I won't allow you to do it. So you do it anyway. You poison them, you stop the forces, you save hundreds of your countrymen, but then you get banished basically because you went against orders. And the whole last chapter of the game is you escaping from captivity and being banished to the north basically, and fighting off the Mongol army in your quote dishonorable way, because the way of the samurai is not the way of stealth, is not the way of poisoning and stuff like that, which is what you were doing the whole game. And it just like it boils down to you go to the final fight against the Mongol army and you do all this work and you sneak back into your uncle's camp and let him know like, hey, we're doing this final fight and we could use help. And he comes and fights for you, but when it comes to the shogun finding out what happened, you're an outlaw because you went against you disobeyed an order. And to me, I'm just like, well, that sucks. I mean, I guess it's definitely like a cultural thing that they had to deal with, especially back then, and then they have to deal with now. I'm sure, like honor and living up to that code and whatnot. But just to me, I'm like this whole finale of the game where you become a straight up outlaw. You can't go home. You lose your family's name. Your family loses their name. They lose their land. They're not they're Ronin now. Not even. They're just outlaws. They're bandits. Like you are the last of your people, and your people are no more because your name gets written off. Your land gets given away to a different samurai. Your uncle gets sent to kill you. That's his last thing he needs to do before he's given back full charge of Tsushima Island. And it's just like, to me, I'm like, man, it felt like this was going to become a a story of redemption, like a story of like, okay, now that I did what I needed to do to end a war, I'm going to live up to my honor and figure out my honor. But it turns into, no, you're just now, you're exiled forever, and you will be being hunted for the rest of your life. You are this folklore, this tale that helps the people, that lives for the people, that like the people want to help you and save you and work with you to protect the lands, and everyone else is out to kill you. And it's just like, well, that kind of sucks. Like, that whole wrap up, like the final thing you do story wise is you fight your uncle, and you get the choice of giving him an honorable death as a warrior's death, or walking away and letting him live. And the whole game, I was uncomfortable. Like, and again, this might have been a more of a cultural thing, but I was uncomfortable with the relationship that the uncle seemed to have. Like, the uncle wanted to, because your father had died many, many years ago, and he's raised you. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to adopt you as my son, and we'll rule as father and son." And like, there was times it's like, "You were my son, you were my." I'm like, "No, I was your fucking nephew. I was your nephew. I wasn't your son. You gotta understand that. I'm different than you." Like, chill out a bit. So when you're doing this final fight, when you win, it gives you this option, and he's like, let me die with honor." And when you choose, I chose to let him live, because I was like, fuck off if I have no honor. Like, I literally say, well, I got no honor, so why would I give it to you? And I say, let him survive, and he just is like, I don't have honor, and walks away. I was like, fuck yeah. Fuck you, uncle. You suck. You, like, didn't have... Like, I understand, again. And then again, a lot of it boils down to, like, the cultural differences of the way I live my life and how I've been raised, and the differences of, especially back in feudal Japan, and what they are about honor and their way of samurai and being like good people. It's like, I understand the thought of, well, you got to do what you need to do to win and protect everyone else. It's like, yeah, but that's dishonorable. You're not killing them looking in their eyes. You're sneaking up on them, and what kind of a way is that? Like, I get it to an extent, but at the same time, I'm just like, man, this kind of sucks. Like, this is like a very depressing ending. Very depressing ending. You kill your best friend because he turns on you and trades on you. Your horse dies, which is incredibly sad. Your possible girlfriend's brother dies, and then she leaves you after the whole war ends. You either kill your uncle or you run from your uncle for the rest of your life. You are basically left with nothing but people who believe in you but are not allowed to.
Which I don't know. Like, I didn't play the game, so I can only say like what it sounds like. I think some of that actually sounds kind of cool.
It brings it down to, like, in the end, he's alone, and that sucks.
As he should be.
And no, I mean, he's the savior of the island.
Yeah.
Like, if it weren't for him, the island would have not been saved. And that's what happens in legitimate history, is the island gets taken over by the Mongols, and then they jump to another island, and then they jump over to Japan. Like, that's how they invade Japan, is by taking over Tsushima, and I don't remember the next island that they go to. But like, this is like, I don't know. I felt I ended the game like happy that I beat it, but conflicted about how it ended. I was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about this. But like, the combat was good. The game was fun. A lot of the side things weren't too terrible. They weren't annoying to do. They were quick and easy. Quick level up things. I beat the game. I unlocked all the map, and I do all of the icons that were on my screen. And then I check my achievements, and I had one achievement where I didn't do all the quests, and I had to look up where the last quest was. And it was a quest line. There's a few quest lines that you only get from either talking to people, and they'll tell you where to go, or just happening upon them. And there's no icon for it until you get there. And I had 60 of 61 completed. and I had to like go looking online, finding
Oh,
the
that's
one that I
rough.
didn't do. Luckily, they give you a list of the quests you have done, so I was able to just compare it. And luckily enough, the first one I looked into was the first one. The first one, the first one I checked was the one I didn't do. I was like, oh, this makes it easier. Um, but yeah, it was a good game. It was fun. It was. I almost platinumed it. I have like 4 trophies left. I'm not gonna bother because they're all just like collect the collectibles, and I don't care to do collectibles. If it's got an icon, I'll do it. But if it's just go around the world and find it, I'm not gonna do that. I
Yeah,
don't
I
care.
don't blame you.
And like there are ways where like I can put on a piece of armor and I can set the wind to always track the closest of whatever this collectible is. But there's like 40 of them I have left to get, and I'm like, this island's huge and I just don't care to travel and find the last 40 of these. It is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. And if I wasn't like, I feel like because there is a new game plus, I don't know if maybe getting the platinum would require me to play New Game Plus or not. I don't think so, but like I don't know. There, I also saw that like there's like challenge modes I can get into that might also be those achievements. They're hidden achievements, so I don't know what they are. So I'm not really like, if I could easily get them done, I would definitely just do them and platinum the game. But I'm not gonna worry about it. I got enough out of the game. It was like 60 hours, 45 to 60 hours, and it was a good time. I liked it. It was a good narrative for the most part. It was an interesting story. It was an interesting tale. Um, I am definitely interested in the next one. It's Ghost of Yotai or something like that, I believe.
Oh, right, there is a sequel coming,
Yeah.
not out yet. I forgot about that.
Yotai, yes, which comes out this year. Lead character is voiced by what's her name? Why am I
Erika
blanking?
Ishii.
Yes, that's her name. Lead character voiced by Erika Ishii. I'm interested in that, but like again, it's probably gonna be another one where I'm just like, all right, I can wait to play it. I don't need to play it right away, especially since like Monster Hunter comes out in 9 days. I'm not playing anything else. Like most of my year is going to be that at this point.
That's true.
So like anything else that comes out this year, I'll just wait on. But I'm also just interested to see how that like just how that performs, because there were like janky aspects of this game a little bit that like I wasn't too thrilled with. They did like, they have a whole armor system where the armor you're wearing gives you stats and stat boosts, and then you can you can equip charms to your sword, which like give you other different stat boosts. And they made it to where later on in later into the game's release, when you put on an armor set, you could set the charms to that armor. But to equip a different armor, to switch your armor, you had to go into the enter menu, go into the items menu, go to the armor, pick your armor, select that armor. It wasn't an easy, quick change. And so that got annoying to the point where at one point I was just like, I'm just going to wear the one armor. I'm not going to change my armor anymore. Because there's one armor, it's the Traveler's armor, which gives you, it clears more of the range as you're running around. If it's fully upgraded, it clears more of the range as you're running around. It makes stealthing a little bit easier, makes movement a little bit quieter, stuff like that, so that this way you might not get into combat. And there were times where I'd get into combat, I have a hard time, be like, oh shit, I'm wearing the Traveler's shit, I need to change. But it would take so many steps to go and change. I was just, fuck it. And then eventually I was just like, I'm just gonna wear this armor. Because I learned like, oh, you don't really need the Traveler's armor to unlock the map, because initially the only way you know how to unlock the map is to travel on the map. And then eventually when you start liberating lands, you learn, oh, okay, each land you liberate unlocks this portion, and then if you liberate the whole entire section and then do the final quest, it unlocks the whole portion of the island and whatnot.
Oh, at least they kind of streamline that for you. Like if you
Yeah.
just do the stuff, it unlocks it.
Yeah, but like I wish they had more things that also did that. Because like there were shrines that you would climb, and you'd climb up to a very high point of the mountain, and you'd pray to the shrine. That should have opened a portion of the map as well. There were what's it called? lighthouses that you would climb up to the top of the lighthouse, light the lighthouse. That should have opened up a shrine. And neither of those did. And I'm like, well, what's the point of climbing up high if I'm not going to see part of the island? But yeah, I thought it was good. I had a lot of fun. But another reason why I'm not too interested in Ghost of Yotai is because that game tanked my numbers. It tanked my stream numbers. Nobody cared about that game.
Well, I mean, it's also, what, a 4.5-year-old game now?
I
think that came out like summer 2020. And it's just,
right.
like, so, it's weird. Like, some old games I feel like people are, like all for, like, watching and seeing stuff for. And certain games like this one, it's like,
yeah.
Once that initial kind of, like, wave of, like, people playing it dies down, it's like, just no one gives a fuck anymore.
Yeah. I don't, like, I don't know. It was like I thought at least my community would have been interested. The people that have come and watched me play other games, especially other open world games and things like that. Like I thought the community I built would have been a community that's like a little bit more interested in Ghost of Tsushima. But no, like right now there's 833 viewers of Ghost of Tsushima on Twitch, which isn't a lot.
No, it really isn't.
586 of them are on one person, and then the next highest number is 12.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of people are playing it, but it just seems like
people aren't interested in watching it.
Yeah, my community, I thought like the people that I built to like have come to my community, have seen the games I play, like I thought more people would be interested in that, but no, it tanked my numbers. There was one day where I went into Sea of Thieves with Sea of Thieves as the theme, or with Ghost of Tsushima as the theme, and like somebody called me out and I was like, "Oh, I forgot to change that. Let me change it." I changed it and immediately had like 6 new viewers.
Oh wow!
As soon as I changed it from Ghost to Sea of Thieves, my viewer count grew.
Yeah, I would be curious, like if you played Yotai closer to launch, if you'd have the same experience or not. Like if it's like a time and place sort of thing, or if it really is just the games just aren't ones people want to watch.
I mean, that's the thing. Being a small streamer, there's no real knowing at this point. Just because I could do Ghost of Yotai, and I had this talk with another streamer the other day after I beat it, and we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, the only thing is it tanked my numbers. My community really didn't seem to care, which I thought they would. Stuff like that. And I was like, I thought it would reach more people because it is a bigger game. And he's like, yeah, but as a small streamer, you kind of gotta just, even though it's not going to help with the reach, you kind of just gotta play the big things when they come out, because there might be people who would rather talk to smaller streamers when the big things are out. And that's kind of how it is. Like, if I want to do Ghost of Yotai, it would probably be better for me to do it when it comes out, because there would be more people searching for it. Even though I'm going to be way down on the list, there is still a little bit of a minor sort of algorithm with Twitch, where if you search a game, it'll give you people that you're similar to and not just always the top numbers. Right. So if I search Ghost of Tsushima, like the first person it shows me for sure is the 565 people person. But like then it shows just channels of people that I'm like I would like more connect with and have like similar things to things I watch or play and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
sure.
like yeah, that's the hard part, especially being small. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And you just got to play the games you want to play, because you play the big games, you're going to be way down on a list when the big games are out. But you're playing the big games. Like, that's just what you're going to be. That's just what you got to do if you want to play them. But so like you're damned if you do, because your name's not going to be out there as much because the other big names are going to be out there playing these games. Like I'm very not thrilled at the fact that fucking Pirate Software is going to be playing Monster Hunter. I'm happy that he's playing. I'm happy that so many people are going to play this game. But I am not thrilled at the fact that some of these extremely huge streamers who I thought would never be interested in a game like Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be playing Monster Hunter Wilds, because then that's going to take away from possible viewership of my stream.
Right.
because this person who's got gazillions of viewers and whatnot, who's like, don't get me wrong, I think Pirate Software is a great person. I think his streams are fun. I love his content, but I need those views, and like I don't want somebody bigger than me jumping into my niche. That's gonna be the sucky part. Like, somebody bigger than me is jumping into my thing, and it's gonna be even harder for me to get into it. But
Which
that's just a difficulty of streaming. But yeah, I beat Ghost of Tsushima on Monday. Wanted to have beat it on Sunday, but I had zero energy to play video games on Sunday, so I beat it on Monday. And it was fun. I liked it.
Yeah, as long as you beat it.
Yeah.
Well, with that out of the way, last thing we have is I played the Plucky Squire.
Yeah.
And
how was it?
It was delightful. Drew, I actually think you'd probably have fun with it.
Yeah, I remember seeing the like trailer and whatnot when it came out, and I was like, that looks real cool.
Yeah, so it's 2D top down and also like a 3D like fixed camera, depending on what part of the game you're in, and it's like a puzzle platform action. It's very not hard. I beat it, so it took about 8 hours. The only times I died were when I did something stupid and like jumped off the table. And even then it's one of those games where like, it's almost like the Lego game. Like when you jump off the table, you're not dying. It just kind of brings you back up and you don't lose any health or anything for it. There's actually an achievement for trying to jump off the table. But I will, that is my one big complaint is like, there is very little challenge in the game. And it only has 2 difficulty settings. It has normal and story. So I think this game would have benefited a little bit from having at least like a hard option or making normal a little harder, and then having that story option. But
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have a story option, then you need to make normal be harder.
Yeah, and it's definitely a game that's like geared at like it's like a family game. Like anyone can play it. But yeah, so it's a little too easy. But it was still like charming and fun, and some of the puzzles were actually like clever, and you could do some neat stuff. So like the idea of the game is you are the Plucky Squire, and he is a character in like a series of children's books, and you are inside of this storybook, trying to go stop the evil wizard, and you kind of have like a little group of friends that are with you, as part of like the narrative, but generally you're only really controlling the squire, except for a few little like mini game sections that are like pseudo boss fights, with like different mechanics, which I'll get into in a minute. At a certain point in the game, you confront the villain, and he uses his magic to throw you out of the storybook, and you land in like the real world. And from there, you kind of have to like do some stuff on this kid's desk, where this kid has like a crazy imagination, and every time like you're out there, he's like built up these different like paper mache things and like castles and structures with like construction paper and cups and like whatever kind of like arts and crafts he can do. And like then all of the like other like random stuff on his desk are like your obstacles. So like pencils and pens and watercolor paint trays and stuff like this that you're kind of like making your way through and interacting with like different stuff, so you can find items that let you interact with the storybook in different ways. So you get, is it 4? So you get 4 like items in the real world that lets you like do things to the book itself. The first 2 things you get are literally the ability to turn the page of the storybook, which literally lets you like go back to other pages and stuff like that quickly. And then the ability to tilt the storybook. So like there's certain puzzles where like you literally tilt the book to make a thing slide across the pages, which is kind of neat. And then you get 2 like stamp items. One of them lets you stamp a thing and it'll freeze that item. So if there's like saw blades spinning and you need to get past them, you can like find a way out of the book, stamp it, and the blades stop moving. Or if you need to do like a slidey puzzle and you need one piece to not slide, you can like jump out, stamp it, and it won't slide anymore. And then the last thing you get is a bomb stamp that you can just like stamp it on things. You can actually, even in combat, like if there is a portal out of a book in like a combat page, you can jump out of the book and just lay bombs on bad guys and blow them up without like any fear of like them attacking you. But then there's just also a bunch of stuff in the world that you can like put bombs on from outside of the book and then blow them up in the book, like rocks and walls and things like that might be in your way. And a few times there are puzzles where have you guys played Link's Awakening ever? The Game Boy Zelda game?
Did I don't think I have.
Barely.
The remake
a little
is
bit, not
something I
much.
kept meaning to buy.
The remake's fantastic, and the art style is very similar to like the quote unquote real world sections of Plucky Squire. But so Link's Awakening does this thing too, where most of the game is like that like top down ish perspective. But there's certain times where like you'll go underground and it becomes like a 2D like side scroll, like a Mario game. Plucky Squire does that. And there's actually at least one level where you exit the level, or you exit the storybook to place a bomb in these 2D levels so that you then have an item to weigh down switches, which I thought was like really cool. And it actually took me a little while to figure it out. And there was one other puzzle where, like I was running around for a while trying to figure out how the fuck to get this puzzle to work. And I just happened to like drop some bombs on the page and like blow up different things to see if anything happened, and found like a thing that moved when you put a bomb on it. So it does some cool stuff with like the puzzles, even if the combat and everything is all fairly easy. And then there's also word puzzles because it is a storybook. So as you're playing it, like words are written on like the ground. And in a lot of cases, you can actually interact with like one word in a sentence. And what you'll do is like, you'll like knock that word out of the sentence and then go find a different word from a different sentence on the page and like drop it in place to like affect something. So there's one level where there is a rat, like a giant rat, and if you walk in front of him, he runs out of his cage and kills you. So the solution is to like do some other puzzles on this page to get up to where there's a second sentence, and that second sentence has the word cheese in it. So once you can get that word cheese, you can then go back down to where the rat is, and there's a big stone block there. It looks like a pillar that says there's a big stone pillar here. And you just change it to be a big cheese pillar. And it turns into cheese, and the rat like runs out, grabs it, and brings it back into their hole, and then you can walk past it. But in that same section, because there are several spots with words, you can take the word cheese and turn a bunch of different things into cheese just for like goofs. So like there's mushrooms growing on the wall. I turned the mushrooms to cheese. And I think I turned an enemy into cheese also. Or no, spikes. There was like spikes coming out of the ground that would like come up and down like a Zelda game. And I made them wood and cheese at two different times to kind of see what would happen. And I think it's cool that like the game did. It lets you kind of like mess around with words and see like what happened. And there are a few circumstances where like I did it after I'd solved a puzzle, but had I not, I would have fucked myself up and I would have had to like restart that page of the book because I like would have just blocked myself from being able to like progress forward. And in a few cases, they will like if a word just can't work in a sentence, like because it's like a descriptor and you needed an adjective or something, it will or no, adjectives are descriptors, right? Yeah.
Yes.
But like, you know what I mean, like words that just like wouldn't fit into the flow of the sentence, it just like drops it out. It doesn't do anything like stupid for those. And there are a few like achievements and like little hidden things if you like spend the time to like mess with enough of the words to like do certain things. So there is a at one point there's a statue of the bad guy, and the idea is if you kind of go to a section of the level that you don't have to, there's a sentence that has the word broken in it. And if you bring that down, you can actually change his diamond statue into a broken statue and then jump out of the world and blow it up. And it gives you both an achievement and there's like a hidden item inside of it. It definitely, like the game overall definitely took a lot of inspiration from like classic Zelda games. You can tell that just from like the gameplay, the fact that like your character is just like, he's Link basically. He has a sword. He does a spin attack. You get the ability to throw your sword, which is similar to like original Zelda or Link to the Past, like Master Sword. When I have the hiccups. When you have like full hearts and you shoot like the beams and stuff like that. And it I don't know. It was a very cute and clever story too. How it it wrapped everything up into a situation where you had to kind of undo what the bad guy had done because the bad guy basically took over your story. And as you're doing this, you're kind of learning that like a bunch of people in your world know that you're just part of a book. But the general people, like just people living in it, have no idea. They think that they are part of a world. And there's even like a couple scenes where you jump out of the book and conversations happen with like your friends in the book that you hear, and they're just like, oh, we can't see him anymore. We must just look like flat things on the page to him now. Where they're kind of like messing with the idea that in different dimensions you can't necessarily see the dimension ahead of you. Which I just thought was kind of like a neat, like little Easter egg, I guess you'd call.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple cool boss fights where they used different styles of games for the boss fights. One of the first ones, you fight a honey badger, and it's a punch out game. So like, and it does like cool little like the squire who looks like a little kid. He gets all buff and stuff for it, and like flexes and like his shirt rips. And then you have like a little punch out mini game where you have to fight this honey badger. And then there's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a game that it would be similar to, and it's not a bullet hell because there's not enough things. It's like a shooting gallery boss fight where you have a bow and arrow and there's a bunch of bugs coming at you in like waves, and you have to like shoot them before they hit you essentially. There's a rhythm game that you get. There is a like a brick breaker sort of like match 3 game where you have to like send up the different colored orbs to like make 3 of a kind to like break them. And then there's do you guys remember a Rezo gun? There's just straight up Rezo gun in this basically. At one point, like when you're outside of the storybook, you're helping out like a little rocket ship guy who he acts as like a jetpack, and you go into this one world that is like a picture on a mug, and you get enlisted into this fight where you get a little laser gun and you have your jetpack and you're flying around the stage as enemies are coming from both sides, and you occasionally have to pick up scientists and bring them back to like a base before the enemies kill them. And it was Rezo gun.
Nice.
And I guess that's something else I didn't mention was when you're outside of the book, because this weird meta magic thing happened to you, you can jump into other 2D surfaces. So there's some cool like link between worlds, the 3DS Zelda game that they did. It's some cool stuff like that where in order to get to different places, you'll like jump into a Post-it note, and that Post-it note will have like a path drawn on it, and that the other part of the path is actually on like a shelf on the other side of the level. So you'll like walk through it and come out the other side. And it ends up being kind of neat the way they do that. Same thing. There's like a dollhouse sort of thing at one point, and there aren't stairs in the dollhouse. So the way that you get from floor to floor is by finding like pictures to go into to then like move up to the next level. I'm trying to think what else is kind of happening in the game that's worth like shouting out. That I thought the story was cute. Like the whole reason you have to stop the bad guy is because if you don't, the little boy who is like the owner of your book and who is like a big Plucky Squire fan, he will put your book away and won't be inspired by it anymore. And so then in the future, he won't then go on to become an author with like a popular series of his own that inspires more children to become authors. So there's kind of like that going on. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's for how quick it is to beat. It is a little pricey. Like it's like $30, I think. And it was 8 hours, and I almost 100% of the game. There are 2 different collectibles that I didn't get all of, but I got most of, and it wouldn't be that hard for me to just go back and get the other ones, because like you can just flip the pages and see what's on pages like as you're going. And I actually that's one other thing to mention is it has that style of game where you transition as you like move like off the screen, kind of like a Zelda game. And instead of it just transitioning, it's actually page turns. So you'll like walk down the path, and as you get to the edge of the book, the page will turn and like it will continue on, and like sometimes it'll orient differently depending on like how the page is laid out. And sometimes if there's like story beats, you'll have like 2 pages of story stuff where it's like little pseudo cutscenes with like text and voiceover. And in a few cases, you actually, if you're not paying attention, you'll miss that there are like hidden objects on those pages that you have to go back to solve puzzles later on. So like you'll go back to like one of these like little like story pages to find a character that's taking a nap that you need to help you on a certain like quest objective. And like the game steers you in that direction. Like it says like, oh, they're probably sleeping under a tree. Like maybe go check what you need, what like the pages like from before. And it's like just far enough back that like you might actually take a little while to find it if you don't think to look on those story pages, if you're just looking on the pages that you actively played on. So, but yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I honestly hope that they do a sequel and maybe do like expand on a little bit. Doesn't necessarily be longer, because I think like 8 to 10 hours is actually a solid length for a game. But I think like it just having a little bit more challenge to the gameplay. Because even like the final boss, like it was a cool final boss fight as like a big like shooter style like bullet hell style game, like an Ikaruga or something like that. But it still wasn't hard. Like I never once was in a position where like I had to like stop what I was like stop attacking so that I could really focus on dodging things. But fun, and fun's what's important in a game.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. It does. It looks like super fun and super cute. Definitely a game I'd love to play sometime.
Yeah, I would say like if it's ever on like it's on Steam, like it's going to have a sale at some point. Absolutely worth grabbing for like $20 or less. Because yeah, it was a fun time, and it's a quick playthrough. Like Rich, it would actually probably be fun on stream too, because like it doesn't require a ton of conversation, but like concentration, and it's fairly quick and bright and fun. And even when there are story things, like they don't last that long.
Yeah.
And it does one feature that I thought was kind of neat. I tested it out once just to see how it worked. Right in the pause settings, they actually have a skip minigame section. So if you're for kids or people that just like struggle, like if they have like a disability or something like that for some of these mini games, they can still play on normal, but they can skip that mini game and it doesn't penalize them. It doesn't seem like it acts like you beat that mini game, and the mini games are mostly like these boss fights, like the Connect 3 and the rhythm games and stuff like that. Which like the rhythm game, like that was, I actually skipped the second rhythm game to see what would happen, because it was just one of those like it was a fine rhythm game, third rhythm game. I'm sorry, not the second one. It was fine, but it also didn't really like it. I didn't have that much fun with it because it's really just tapping a button as a thing flies at you. So like I tested it on the last one of those because I'm like, well, this is the least fun of the mini games. Let me kind of see what happens, and it does. It just lets you kind of like move on to the next phase of whatever you were doing.
Nice.
Probably also great for people that hate stealth, because there's like a few little sections where you control like a mouse who's going to go open like the side door for you essentially, and they're little like stealth missions. They're super quick. They're not very hard, but for people that just hate those things, being able to just hit, hey, let's skip this, probably is great for them.
Nice.
Yeah. But I think that will probably do it.
Yeah. It was a long show.
Yeah, you kept fucking talking, man.
So did you.
I'm kidding.
Man, you talked more, I think.
No, man, you went on for a while.
You had more things.
Yeah, but you talked more.
But you had more things.
Yeah, but you kept talking about other movies.
I mean, I was just...
I
don't know, man. I don't know.
But yeah, that's going to do it for this week. If you would like to find more of our content, you can head over to www.one-quest.com. You can also help us out by supporting us at patreon.com/onequest. If you can't support us there with your dollars, though, you can go to your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, rate us, review us, subscribe to us. All of it helps. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/onequestonline, or at @one_quest on Instagram and Twitter. And we're at onequestsomething on Blue Sky. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/onequestvideo. And you can always send us an email to social@one-quest.com. And Rich, what is your streaming look like?
Twitch.tv/b_walnuts for video game streaming Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. With Ghost of Tsushima beat and Monster Hunter coming out next Friday, the 28th. I don't know what to promote for my stream besides I'll be live on Friday the 28th, probably around 10 or 11 o'clock, playing Monster Hunter on release day, and then all weekend next weekend. Outside of that, I may play a game about digging a hole. I may play Marvel Rivals with Xeno Alien, but also Sea of Thieves every Thursday. But I don't really know what I'm doing the next couple of streams. They're just kind of up in the air, kind of chill, because I don't want to get anything big. Maybe on Sunday, depending on how much time I have, I might try Avowed, but I don't want to get into a big RPG right now.
I mean, I don't blame you because you do have like a
not,
big thing coming up.
I'm literally not going to play it outside of like it's going to be the same thing that happened with what was it called? The space game, whatever, the Bethesda space game. Like I played it once. Starfield, yeah, I played it like 3 times, and then I got Baldur's Gate, and I stopped playing it and played Baldur's Gate instead. Like that's what's going to happen with Avowed. If I play it on Sunday, I'm going to play it for like 5 hours, just as a first look, and then I'm not going to touch it again until I'm done with Monster Hunter. So,
and even then, like maybe you forget to touch it again at all.
Yeah, I mean it's a Game Pass game, so I'm not really too worried about it.
Oh, that's I forgot it was Microsoft.
Yeah, so that's why, like, right now, if anything, a game about digging a hole is only $5 on Steam, and that game looks silly. I might try some Marvel Rivals as a noob plays a hero shooter for the first time kind of thing, just to kill time. Just come hang out on stream.
Nice. And with that, we will be back next week with something else to talk about. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.